Complete mad one, totally off track, nothing to do with shrimp, but I've got a bit of a bug for something at the moment, so I'll go through all that with you. So I'm holding in my hand a cocoa brick by Terra. So I'm building a dart frog enclosure. I'm using a tank with a ventilated lid to do this. So what I'm doing at the moment is, as per the instructions, I'm soaking that cocoa fibre. What I'll do once all that soaks and there's no dry bits and it's damp rather than soggy, I'll add to that a couple of handfuls of, I'm going to use Essel aqua soil because it doesn't leach ammonia. I'm going to add a couple of handfuls of sand and a couple of teaspoons of limestone and mix all that up, and that will be my top layer. So that will be my substrate, and then underneath that I've got some clay balls. So I've washed these out because they were quite dusty, and I'll go through this build with you guys. So this will be the tank that I'm using. It's a 10 gallon and I'm looking to house 2 frogs, possibly 3 depending on the size of them. What I have done is I've cut myself a tube. So I need to give this a clean. It's an old tube. Put a bit of a recess on that. Sorry, that's not focusing very well. And what I want to do is sort of stick that into the corner. Probably silicone that in, because what I'll have is I'll have 2 layers on here. I'll have a layer of drainage media so that it doesn't get sort of wet. You know, it needs to be damp, not wet, and humid. It needs to be humid, not sodden. So we'll put a layer of those pebbles at the base, this in the corner. Then I'll put a mesh. So this is the mesh that I'm using. It's like a fly screen over the top, and then I'll put the soil on top of that. And the idea of this tube is that if it's too wet and there's water in the drainage layer, I can literally just put in a bit of airline or something, can sort of siphon that out with a pump or whatever I use to do that. So let's get this first layer in. I may silicone this tube in place first, but I haven't made my mind up yet, so we'll see. So I've got my base drainage layer in. I'm not happy with how low that is, so what I might do is I might build that up a bit more with some alpha grog, which I've got because I haven't got any more of these balls. But I've also sort of had a think about that tube down there and what might be better for that. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to put a piece of sponge in there just to stop the other substrate sort of coming in and blocking up that hole. And I can't find any black sponge. I've got some somewhere. I just need to find it, and I'll get that done. So, little update then. So we had a bit of a pause because I was waiting for some more clay balls. I'd ordered 5 litres and it just wasn't enough. So I put a couple of litres of these clay balls on here. Some of them I washed and some of them I didn't, hence why they're dry. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to separate the drainage layer. I've put that tube in the corner as I mentioned. I'm going to separate the drainage layer with some window mesh fly screen, and by all accounts it's quite tricky. There's some space at the sides, and the idea is that the soils, the substrate doesn't go into the drainage layer. So from what I've watched on YouTube, the idea is that you get a big pile in the middle and you sort of work out from there and position it as you need to. So we'll get that done. I did want to mention then that my soil's been soaking. I have mix that soil with some forest moss, and then I've also got some forest moss which I'm going to use on top of the soil as like a base layer. Now most people use sphagnum moss. I thought that's what I purchased actually, but forest moss is an Asian one, but it helps to keep the humidity and stuff in there. And I have built a lid, but I haven't put that on yet or shown that. New glue gun, burnt my fingers as you do, so it'll do for now. I think I'm going to get a proper lid or make a proper lid for this with some decent ventilation in. But let's get this soil in and then we'll continue from there. So I've got the soil layer in. I need to level it out a bit and probably slope it slightly towards the back, but what I was sort of conscious of doing was making sure that this drainage hole was left empty, so if I do get too much water in here in the drainage, I can siphon that off. What I am going to do is plug that in with a sponge, but the next bit that I'm going to do here is I'm going to put some moss on top. So the moss that we mentioned, I'm just going to sort of scatter about, and it's mainly to give humidity, but also that sort of forest floor type feel. And then what I'm going to do, so the reason I wanted to try and get this done as soon as possible, is I'd ordered some springtails and some isopods. And the idea of those is the springtails will sort of break down waste and eat fungi and stuff like that in humid environments and bad bacteria, I believe. And then the woodlice will sort of eat, or the isopods will eat various sort of decaying matter, and the isopods will eat their waste as well. So I have got some ideas for this. I've got a couple of pieces of cork bark. I'll try and get those in and wet them down. I am waiting on a spray bottle, but I can potentially pick one of those up tomorrow, or my wife can if she goes shopping, and that's just to sort of give it some humidity and dampen it down. But what I'll do is I'll get a sort of thin layer of moss on here. I'll put a plug in that corner, find a bit of sponge to stick in there. I can see some actually. And we'll put the moss on, and we'll sort of damp it down a little bit, and we'll show you that, and then we'll finish this section with just putting the isopods and the springtails in. So we've got the moss in. I'm a bit worried about the height that I've got. I just regret that I hadn't sort of got a bit taller. It'll be okay for a couple of frogs. I still need to put plants in here. Say this has just been literally because I've got my isopods and my springtails, and I needed to get them in to start that colony. Got a couple of pieces of cork bark. They're by no means where they're going to end up, but I want to give the isopods somewhere to sort of hide. So let's start. I'm going to put that, see if I can do that there. In fact, before I do that, so this is my springtail culture. I'm not sure if you can see those. So there's approximately 250 plus little springtails, and I'll sort of help break down and keep the place sort of bioactive and eat the waste from the isopods and vice versa. So let's get those in. I am going to put, I'm hoping that that will hold, and then what we'll do is we'll tip that in that corner. So I'm literally just going to sort of spread that culture out. Hopefully my phone doesn't drop while I'm doing this, and what I'll do is I'll sort of spread that into the tank and make sure I dispose of that packaging properly, because I don't want springtails all over the house. The wife will kill me. And then finally, let me see if I can do something here. So we've got two types of isopods. We've got, I believe these are called clown. So let me see if we can focus on those. And I am literally just going to tip those out in the same fashion. And we'll just sort of let them get established and sort themselves out. And we've also got, don't move my, he's just, as he dropped in. So we've also got these little fellas. So these are called Magic Potion. And what I'll do with these ones, now that I've only got one hand, is I'll drop those on top of that bit of bark. And if you got, I don't know if you guys can see these. So there's one. There's a couple there. Let me. A little fella. They're called Magic Potion. I think it's because they look like a little pill. So these things would have freaked me out a few years back, but I'm really getting to love them. You know, the land shrimp really. Let's see if I can get him off. I don't want him on his back. Come on, mister. I say they would have proper freaked me out a few years ago. But what are they really? You know, they've been around for thousands of years. They're land shrimp. and what they'll do is they'll act as a sort of bioactive. One of the clowns is off, look. Wow, he's turboing. And once these are sort of made the way out, I'll spread these around, and I've got plants coming. I'll get the plants in. I do want to put a bit of bogwood in. I'm not sure how I'm going to use the cork, or you know why I'm going to use the cork, but we'll sort of give that a bit of a whirl. And once I've got the plants in, we'll get that sort of videoed as well, and hopefully they'll come tomorrow. But the idea then is we leave this, we spray it down, keep some humidity in there, put the heat mat under it, get it to temp, keep it sprayed down, make sure the humidity is as it is, and we want this to run for sort of 4, 6, 8 weeks. And the idea is what we're looking to do is get these colonies of isopods and springtails to sort of explode so they can support that environment. I'll finish this section with just a little breakdown of the lid and show you what I've done. These plastic covers do need to come off, but I've literally just used a piece of polycarb, cut it to size, and then I've made a bit of a mess here with the glue gun, but I've literally glue gunned it. And what I've done is I've made it so it's a lip. These are just trims, the plastic trims I had knocking around, and I've made it sort of slightly bigger. So the idea is I do need to put some vents in it. So the idea is that when that fits, it fits nice and flush. I've got a tiny gap this side, but what I might do is put another piece of this, I might put another piece of this plastic here, and then I'm going to cut some vents in. And what I'll do with the vents is, you know, the mesh that I showed you for the base layer, the substrate, this stuff. So what I'll do is I'll just glue gun, I'll cut some circles out and I'll glue gun those into a couple of vents, and then it's going to end up in that spot on the shelf, and we'll just use that lighting and see how we get on. At some point, I think, because I've sort of got a bit of a bug, I won't sort of get rid of everything. Shrimp's the mainstay, but I think at some point what I might do is I might actually move that tank or dismantle that tank and have a bigger proper terrarium up there with front opening doors. I need to see how this goes, because we've pretty much used sort of probably a quarter of that height, although dart frogs primarily sort of live on forest floors and stuff, so they do climb a little bit, but not to the point that a tree frog would. So I've got enough height up there to sort of get an 18 by 18 by 24 tall, and that's what I'll probably do next. If I sort of decide to go down that route, I may take both of those tanks and have a big terrarium up there, and they're just pets, you know, they're just pets for the shop. My business is shrimp, and I'll stay with shrimp, you know, and I've got no plans or intentions of selling anything other than that. But we'll leave those be for now. We'll let those guys get sort of established. I'll get a spray bottle tomorrow and give this a good spray down. I'll have a look through what we've sort of left in there for the isopods, and we'll sort of go from there. So speak to you soon. So picking up a few days later, I've not been well, sort of seriously not well. I'll give you guys a look at how I've made this lid. So what I've done is I've just cut out some holes and then hot glued in some mesh. The first one is a stainless steel mesh, but behind that I've actually got this fly screen mesh, which I thought was a little bit finer. So that helps to keep the humidity low. We have planted this, so if I just get the camera in, and I think I've made a decision on this. So I've used some bucephalandras, I've put in some botanicals, and I've taken out the moss layer. And what I've done is, so these are just bogwoods, and what I've done is I've just used leaf litter instead. There are isopods and springtails in here. I'm not sure if I can see any springtails moving, but the idea is that we'll leave this now for 4, 6, 8, 12 weeks, however long it goes. And just sort of going through the plants, I've got this one that's a creeping plant. We've got various buces scattered all over the place. I've got a bromeliad there that I've just pushed into the bogwood. We've got a fern over here and various other bits of booze. And then right down the bottom here, we've got a foliage plant. So I'm going to let it sort of go, see how we get on with that. My humidity is about 99%. My temperature in Fahrenheit 74. And to sort of add to this, I've decided that I actually wanted a bit of a bigger one. So we're going to get that sorted as well, and I'll do that build. But I've decided for this one, because it's so small, I'm going to actually put some very small frogs in here, what are referred to as thumbnails or near thumbnails. And I think the species that I've chose, well, you'll just have to wait and see. So I'll do the sort of unboxing video. But what I've also done is I've decided, because we sort of keep cultures of bioactive things in those, what I've done is I'm going to build a couple of these tubs. And what I've done, I've got a soil mix in there. I've added a bit of moss, and I'll add a bit of bogwood or something for them. And then I've literally just added the springtail colony in here. So one, it will give me a springtail colony to sort of use. I will do a couple of these actually, and to use to sort of top up my terrariums, my frog terrariums. And the other thing that it will do, it will likewise give me the ability to, so I haven't opened these yet, these are giant orange isopods, to build some isopod cultures as well. And I think I'm sort of going to do a few of these, because they're very, you know, they can go on the bottom shelf, they don't need a lot, you know, spray them down, bit of broken down sort of wood and foliage and stuff like that. And you can feed them fish food as well. So I'm going to open these and get these into this box. I did get these off an eBay seller. It's not sponsored, but I'm really impressed with the package that they came in. So really like that. I thought these were really good. So have a look what else they've got. I might buy some different species off him, but that's his card anyway. They were just super active a minute ago, and as if they know I'm filming them. So I've literally just placed that little pot in there that they came in. The moss in there is quite dry. I might give them a spray to wake them up, but it looks like they're coming round. They've been in the post. So the giant orange, I've got in the other tank two species. So I've got magic potions and can't remember the other ones. I think they're clown. So yeah, he's out, or she found somewhere to have a little mooch around. And I think if I'm successful with these, I might sell some of the isopods as well. So that one's really active. I'll get a bit of leaf litter in here as well to break down. What I may do is, I'm not sure if I'm going to do it in the lid because of the way the lids are, but I may put some ventilation in, although the lids don't sort of seal down, so I'm not sure I actually need ventilation in these. And I'll probably open them and spray them every couple of days anyway. So not like there it is. So I think I'll use this corner. I'll put some leaf litter, some sodden leaf litter up in that corner, probably jackfruit and oak leaves or something. But what I'll do is I'll tip these out, and or we'll attempt to get them out. So there's one. Don't know where that one's gone, but it is there. So let's tip these out. And then what I'll do is I'll just pick up, I'll get a bit of jackfruit and oak leaf. I'll put it in that corner wet so they've got something to sort of disappear under. I'm going to try and buy some small cork bark pieces. So I need to try and find those and get those purchased. But yeah, the oranges are quite nice. I still think the clown are my favourite, but I do want to get some zebras as well. I do like the rubber duckies, but they're so expensive. Sort of £60 for 10 they are. That's not me. I'm thrifty. Decided to put a few oak leaves in, soak them down, and a lotus head. So they'll naturally sort of break down over time and they'll feed on those, but it'll also give them something to explore and go in and out of. And they are super, super active. And they're right over here already. So hopefully we get some breeding and increase these colonies. So that brings us to the end of this video. I know this is a shrimp channel, but I thought that would be something interesting and different for you guys. I obviously haven't got my frogs yet. I'll sort of do the other build, probably not release that until I've actually got frogs in both of those. I may do if I get the frogs in the first terrarium, but I've not done any shrimp video. I did have a couple of weeks sort of planned where I got ahead of stuff. I have been really bad. I had a bad incident when I did the video for the RO unit. I stood up and sort of crunched my back, which is already sort of super bad anyway. So I'm sort of out of video, and I was keen to get a video out for you guys who follow the channel. If you've enjoyed this and any of our other content for that matter, please consider subscribing, because it massively helps us to grow. And I've done nothing in the shrimp room. You can probably see by my hair, I've not been able to go out and get a haircut. I've really struggled these last couple of weeks, and I'd got to the point where I'd got a couple of videos sort of in the pot, and that was where I wanted to get to. But I am back to square one, where I'm sort of trying to do videos. I've not even done any maintenance in the shrimp room. I've not lost anything. I've got algae everywhere, and I'm sort of desperate to get that done. Struggle lifting and stuff at the moment and standing up straight, so I'll try and do a bit. I'm going to plan hopefully this weekend to try and sort of get a load of pain medication down my neck and try and get as much of the water changes done as I need to. And I've calibrated my TDS pen yesterday actually. I need to get those tanks sort of set and done, and hopefully once that's done I can get a bit of video for the shrimp. Nothing really been done. There's no modifications to any of the tanks been done or the systems, and that's still to come. So hopefully I can get some video next week. I'm probably going to sit and do bits of video because, as I say, I really struggle to stand. But anyway, enough of me waffling. Thanks everybody for watching. I hope you've enjoyed this. We've still got the other one to do. I'll get back on some shrimp content as soon as possible, and we'll sort of flip between the two. And I have got another tank to scape, so it's my daughter's. My daughter's got a tank that she wants me to scape, and if I can get down there, we'll do a video scaping that as well. So for the scapers out there, I look forward to that one. Take care, everybody. Goodbye.